Okay, it says we're live, so let's do this. Wife was she got something in her newsfeed this morning about an article that was published in the past, and it came out of Forbes magazine, Forbes' business, right? Business magazine, and it was published actually in 2023. And the title is, but obviously it's being recirculated. You know, the algorithm, it does this thing, right? The news algorithms. And so this is being recirculated. This is a 2023 article that's being pushed again, which is interesting by itself, right? That's interesting. Anyway, the title is, "We are afraid," in quotes. Quote, "We are afraid. Scientists issue new warning as world enters, quote, uncharted climate territory." I was just reading that off my phone. So, again, that was 2023. What happened in 2023? Well, I've mentioned it several times on this channel. We went off the edge of the map. You don't know what that means. I know what that means. You don't know what that means. So I'm just going to say it. We went off the edge of the map. Beyond here, there be monsters. I just said it. Well, over here in Forbes, same year, "We are afraid. Scientists issue new warning." I'm not the only one. I'm not the only scientist who's afraid. We're off the edge of the map, people. We're off the edge of the map. And I'm not the only one saying it. We're off the edge of the map. James Hansen, retired NASA scientist, has been doing some work recently with colleagues that paints a picture of just how badly we are off the edge of the map. But we are off the edge of the map. So that's it. That's all you really need to know. Yeah, the details, the when, the why. These guys were saying, and you could go back and read this if you want to. I just skimmed through it. They were saying in 2023 that we had maybe 5 years before impacts start to affect human life on Earth. So given that was 2023, 5 years or so puts us around 2028. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I'd say that's in alignment with where we're at now in 2025. It's soon to be 2026, right? So it's a good 2, maybe going on 3 years later, and they said 5 years, and I'm thinking, yeah, that feels about right. We're still on glide path for their 5-year prediction, which is now only 2 years away. And so what's happening? Well, it's kind of hard to know what's happening because, as I said before, just a moment ago, we're off the edge of the map. Well, what does that mean, Cougar? It means we're off the edge of the map, people. And where did the map come from? The map only ever came from science, right? That's it. Scientists are the only one who understand what the map is. They draw the map, they chart the map, they update the map. Science. That's it. Politicians, don't even get me started, right? Politicians, businesses, give me a fucking break, right? No, science, all right? Science wrote the map, updated the map, pointed out the map to everybody. I gave a TED talk about the map, and we're off the edge of the map now. So there you go. That ought to be alarming. If you go to the old medieval maps of the world, right, and they get the edge of the map, and what do they have on the marginalia, right? Beyond here, there be monsters, right? When you get to the edge of the map, whatever the known world was at the time, right? Europe, parts of Africa, parts of Asia, and then everywhere else has little comments, handwritten comments. Beyond here, there be monsters, because you're off the edge of the map beyond that point, right? You're off the edge of the map. So we're off the map. What, you want data? You want fucking data? There's no fucking data because we're off the edge of the fucking data map. No data. We're cooked. That's it. You can collect data, but it's not going to do you any good because we don't have a map. You see what's happening here? We don't have a map anymore. We don't have a map. And everything they thought was going to happen, it was going to happen on this schedule, and this would be the first thing, and this would be the second thing. That's all the map. But we're off the edge of the map. And these guys were saying in 2023, yeah, we're kind of off the edge of the map, and we're afraid because we're off the edge of the map. Is this making any sense to anyone? I mean, it makes plenty of sense to me because I'm a scientist, and I understand how important the map is. And what is science always doing? Science is always pushing back the boundary of what we don't know. There's always going to be something we don't know. There are going to be lots of things we don't know, where we haven't even made the first tiny baby steps into exploring what is unknown. So there's always going to be unknown stuff. But let's face it, we're pushing back the boundaries of what is known into the unknown. There is more stuff that used to be completely unknown that is now known, or at least we're comfortable with it, right? And we've been doing that for, 300 years. We've been pushing back the boundaries of what is unknown. The unknown stuff is now way, 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 way out there. Most people live their lives and never come in contact with anything that's unknown. There's almost no room left for superstition in the human world. I mean, in theory, there shouldn't be much room for superstition. Now, if you wanted to be superstitious about the internet, most people don't know how the internet works. They simply use it. And yet they're not, right? It's magic. Your smartphone, your iPhone, your Android phone, whatever, it's like magic, right? Most people have no clue how that thing works. But they don't relegate it to the realm of superstition. They just accept that this works. I hold this up, I push this button, I push the other buttons. I can go out on the internet, whatever that is, and I can scroll through Twitter and TikTok, and I can do these things, and I don't know who these people are or how this information gets here, but it's not superstitious to them. It's still on the map. Well, all that map was created by science. The internet was created by what? Politicians? Auto mechanics? I mean, come on, give me a break, people. Just give me a break, all right? Science knows. Scientists, as a class of people, know. We know. Oh, yeah, we know. We don't always talk about what we know among ourselves. We do more frequently and more comfortably. And that's why we have TED Talks and, university presentations and things like that. We talk among ourselves, and we're always pushing back the map, and sometimes the rest of the humanity gets to see the map that we're always pushing back. Well, we're off the edge of the map now. And these people in 2023, because of what happened in 2023, see, there you go. Something happened in 2023. Data, we got some data. And what the data said was, oh, yeah, we're off the edge of the map. And I was saying, we've been off the edge of the map for a long time. And the reason is because we've been fooling ourselves. I understand Earth system dynamics. Okay? Meteorologists do not. And a lot of climate scientists do not understand Earth system dynamics. Because it's too fucking big. They want to focus. You can't get grants to study big things. You study big things because you're a gentleman scientist and you want to know how the big thing works, all right? But you can't get a grant for that. So I'm like a gentleman scientist, right? My career is unrelated to science. My career was in technology. I was educated as a scientist, and I did a lot of science. And then I realized, the way my brain works, I'm better off in technology. And this was like a long time ago. So I got into technology, in particular internet technology, computer technology, and did fairly well, and that was my career. But I remain a gentleman scientist. So as a gentleman scientist, I can do whatever I want. I'm self-funded. I don't have to write grants. I don't have to convince anybody that I'm talking about something important. I just talk about, research, deal with whatever I want to as a gentleman scientist, like we used to do in the 1800s, the 1700s, gentlemen scientists. self-funded. Don't need to get funding from anybody. Don't need anybody's permission. Don't care what you think. This is what I'm looking at. This is what I'm working on, and that's where I'm at. So here I am on YouTube. So I knew that a lot of this climate science stuff was very narrowly defined, and looking at very tiny silos, and not really looking at the big picture. We see echoes of that even today. Johann Rockström and his 9 planetary boundaries is like 9. That's a very suspiciously exact number, not a dozen, not 20 or 30. No, he picked it had to be 9 because a single digit is easier for people to brain about than a 2-digit number like 10 or 11. So he picked 9, the largest single digit number he could come up with. Right about the level of what humans can cognate on. And then he came up with 9 planetary boundaries, and it's all bullshit. It doesn't mean it's wrong, but it's just so limited. It's just so limited. So, of course, it has to be limited, because if you really take a step back and you look at the entire Earth system, it's too big. It's too big. But that's the problem. That is the problem set. The problem we're trying to solve exists not in the 9 Earth planetary boundaries. It exists in the entirety of the Earth dynamic system. And these guys, back in 2023, were looking at the Earth system. Looking at the Earth system. And they said, oh yeah, we're fucked. And that's what I said back in 2023. When I saw what happened, whatever it was that happened, it was reflected in, crazy temperature anomalies. And when I saw it, I was like, oh yeah, we're fucked. And they're not going to be able to figure that out. And they still haven't, as far as I'm concerned. I've seen some thoughts about what happened, but it's not as easy as that. It's going to be system-wide. It's going to be something broke in the Earth system. And that was my words at the time. Something just broke. Something just broke in the Earth system. Oh my God. And it's probably several things. And it's a cascade of things. It's like dominoes knocking each other over, right? Something tripped, and then all these other things tripped, and now we're screwed, right? But that's a systems approach. So these guys back in 2023 were looking at the same thing I was looking at, and they were coming to the same conclusion that I came to, because they're system scientists. And they said, oh, well, that can't be good. That can't be good. The race car was going down the track doing pretty good, doing the oval. We thought we had a handle on things. Then all 4 wheels came off. All 4 wheels, not just one wheel. One wheel is like, oh, that's mechanical failure. Well, the one wheel comes off. That happens once in a while. All 4 wheels came off. And that's when you're like, wait a second. We don't really understand wheels, do we? When all 4 wheels come off the race car going down the track, all 4 simultaneously come off the racetrack. Cars that are going down the track at speed, all 4 wheels fall off simultaneously. We just don't understand wheels. I mean, that's what you come down to. We thought we had a handle on this. One wheel comes off. Well, that's probably something we can manage. Some mechanical failure. All 4 wheels come off. Oh, we don't understand wheels. That's what you're supposed to come. That's the conclusion you should come to. We don't understand wheels on race cars if all 4 wheels fall off at the same time. And in 2023, all 4 wheels fell off at the same time. We don't understand what we're doing. We're not doing anything. We're scientists. We're trying to push back the borders of ignorance, right? And what we're realizing is there's something going on out there that's past our understanding. That's not our fault. There's always going to be something beyond our understanding. Always. And in 2023, that just landed on us out of a tree. All 4 wheels came off of the race car. And like, oh, well, we thought we had a handle on things, and clearly we do not. And it's a pretty rare worker in the field these days who will come out and say, well, we didn't know what we were talking about all this time, because all 4 wheels just fell off in 2023. And well, that's something. That's a wake-up call. Wow, we weren't expecting that. Nobody predicted that. That wasn't on anybody's bingo card. All 4 wheels falling off the race car off the climate race car in 2023. That wasn't on anybody's bingo card. And so we just didn't know. We don't know. We don't know what we know something, but we don't know it nearly enough. And that's a limit of science. But it's science that creates the map. It is science that creates the map. Not politics, not economics, not businesses, not the church. It's science that creates the map. And we're off the map. And the situation that alerted us to that, okay, a clue. We got a clue, 2023. Oh yeah, we don't know nearly enough to be dealing with this climate change bullshit. We're talking it like we are. We're talking a brave talk. We're being very brave here. But we're off the edge of the map, folks. And beyond here, there be monsters. Now let me show you something. Let's just look at something here, shall we? I did a little search on Google. What is a wicked problem? A wicked problem is actually a defined type of problem. It is a type of problem. Wicked problem sounds very dramatic, but it is a defined problem. So this is kind of blurry. You can run this same search if you want to. What is a wicked problem? And this is the AI overview, but I've looked this up many times in the past, hundreds of times in the past. A lot of my videos are talking about this wicked problem. Let's talk about the wicked problem, shall we? A wicked problem is a complex, ill-defined social problem that is difficult or impossible to solve because there is no clear definition of the problem, no single right solution, and no definitive stopping rule. See, this is a definition. A wicked problem has these characteristics. Unlike tame problems with clear boundaries and solutions like a flat tire, wicked problems such as climate change or homelessness, see, I didn't write this. The AI did. Are persistent, evolving, and resistant to traditional problem-solving methods, requiring creative, adaptive, and collaborative approaches. Wow. Wicked problems. Okay, the shorter version of that is that wicked problems admit of no solution. Admit of no solution. Now that grinds the gears hard for a lot of techno-triumphalists, a lot of progressives, a lot of people who believe in the march of progress. The idea that there could be problems that have no solution, and that's like, well, that's defeatist. You just haven't thought about it enough. You haven't been creative. Well, they say right here, wicked problems are resistant to traditional problem-solving methods. And that's all most people are capable of, is traditional problem-solving methods. And what's a traditional problem-solving method? Throw money at it. Do research. Improve politics. Create regulatory environments. Okay, these are the solutions to traditional problems. Wicked problems are resistant to traditional problem-solving methods. How can that even be true? I mean, we have always had progress. Progress is like God-given. It's like a sacred creed of humankind is progress and biggering and fastering and largering and bettering. And we just have to throw more money at it, or throw more politics, or throw more regulations, or throw more policy. We'll solve the problem. Wicked problems are resistant to traditional problem-solving methods. And if you don't think there's wicked problems, right here in this definition, such as climate change, all right? Wicked problems require creative, adaptive, and collaborative approaches. And let's face it, folks, humans are neither creative, nor adaptive, nor collaborative. We don't do those. Individuals do those things. And individuals can actually solve wicked problems. And I can solve. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, just give me a minute. And I can solve global heating. Just give me a minute. And I can solve global heating. I'll get to that in a minute. Key characteristics of wicked problems. And they are, what do I see here? I see 7. I have seen definitions with a few 3, so probably there's a lot of padding here, but I'm just going to go through them. I'm going to quickly do the the TLDR, the 7 points here are no definitive formulation, no solution that can be tested, no stopping rule, that's always present, no exhaustive set of solutions. Every solution is a one-shot, meaning you have one chance at it. You can't go back and do it again. Lack of agreement and interconnectedness. Wicked problems are complex. So let me go back and read these definitions. So no definitive formulation. There isn't a clear, agreed upon definition of what the problem is or what its core components are. And right there, you're blown. Wicked problems have no clear definition. The fact that there is a problem is obvious to everyone in the room. But when you get all the people in the room to try and define the problem, they can't do it. Well, that doesn't make any sense. Oh, yeah. Oh, that happens all the time, by the way. All the time. And if you start looking at problems like that we've never solved, like economic injustice and slavery and racism and human trafficking and drug addiction. If you look at all the problems and cancer, you look at all the problems that we wanted to solve that we've identified, we can't even settle on the definitions of these things. No solution to test. You can't definitively solve a wicked problem. Each solution attempt is a one-shot operation that has consequences but isn't necessarily final. All right? No stopping rule. There's no definitive the problem. There's no ultimate the solution. The problem solving ends when resources run out rather than when the problem is truly solved. So this is present in all of the definitions of a wicked problem. There's no stopping rule. Since there's no definition of the problem, see the above, there's no ultimate the solution. Climate change, that's what they use. I call it global heating. There is no definitive definition of what the problem is with global heating, especially with the term climate change. That's so far nebulous that we can't even go there. But at least global heating is physics, right? So we could talk about global heating. And so what's the problem with global heating? Well, it's all these things. And then you have to say, well, then what's the solution? Well, there's as many solutions as there are causes. So you have all these problems that you're going to have to solve. And you don't know when you solve enough of them to be done. And since it's physics, you won't even know that you've solved the problem until the physics changes. And that who knows when that's going to happen. So it is so nebulous and it's so poorly defined that there's no stopping rule. There's no rule that says, oh, well, we had this problem, we had these 3 things we had to do, we've done the 3 things, problem solved. There's no stopping rule. No exhaustive set of solutions. There are no clearly defined or exhaustive sets of potential solutions to choose from. It is so nebulous. It is so huge. It is such a system-wide problem that the number of solutions you would have to apply are essentially infinite and almost become idiosyncratic. The solution to global heating that would apply to agriculture would make the solution worse for somebody else. And now they have a problem, and maybe the agronomists are happy now, but someone else is unhappy. So some of your solutions actually create new problems, and that's one of the definitions of a wicked problem, is that your solutions tend to be as bad as, or even worse than the original problem. And that is a feature of global heating and the solutions that people are offering. And I'm not going to any the rest of these. I'll just do this one. Every solution is a one-shot. Each attempt to address a wicked problem is unique, and the consequences of one approach can impact future efforts. Again, some or all of the solutions are as bad as or worse than the original problem. So when you try a solution, you actually just shift the problem. Yeah, you had a solution. Someone identified a solution, but then that just moved the problem to another space. Oh, maybe it's even someone else's problem, right? Wicked problems tend to be SCPs, someone else's problem. That when you apply your preferred solution, you have your solution, you apply your solution, it just slides the problem over into someone else's silo. And then they try to fix it, it slides it back into your silo. And the problem can just move back and forth. And of course, when you're dealing with global problems like global heating, global climate change, if you rather, you can end up with solutions that actually have the capacity to start war. Exactly because there are nations and national interests, or even industries or industrial interests or financial interests, or some other way to slice this thing, that if you solve the problem or address the problem in this area, it just pushes it over into someone else's area, and they don't like that. And if you keep doing that back and forth, and they happen to have an army, then they're going to put a stop to it, right? So that's the kind of things we run into when trying to solve wicked problems. So why am I talking about a wicked problem? Back in 2023, these guys were saying, I guess we can look at this. Why they're hard to solve. Wicked problems resist traditional scientific approaches that are designed for clear, well-defined, tame problems. Because of their complexity, evolving nature, and the lack of consensus, they require deep, sustained collaboration and innovative, adaptive strategies. Why they're hard to solve. They require deep, sustained collaboration and innovative, adaptive strategies. Wow. We can't do that. And if you're a hippie and you smoke pot and you hold hands and then you can say, oh, well, we'll just have to learn how to work together. We'll just have to, consult our chakras to get more intuitive view of the problem, and we'll just innovate and we'll just adapt. And, if we all just hold hands and sing Kumbaya, then we can just, float all the boats and everybody will be happy and every kid will have a pony and we'll solve the problem. Because, here, have some more weed, man, we'll smoke some pot and we'll feel great about ourselves. And, man, I can solve these problems. Fuck yeah, man, it's easy. We just love, man, brotherly love. Give me some of that weed, man. Brotherly love, man. That's going to solve all our problems. This is hippie bullshit. It's just a mind fuck. No, you're not going to get any of that. What, from the Chinese, from the Russians, from Donald Trump? You're going to get brotherly love from Donald fucking Trump? And the MAGA and the Republicans in the United States of America? You're going to get brotherly love from the United States of fucking America? No, I don't think so. I don't even think so. I don't think that's happening. Okay? That's not happening. So what are we talking about today? We must take the hit now. What is the hit? Here's the problem. Global heating, global climate change, Trumpism, whatever you want to point to, and however you want to solve this problem, and all the different things that people think could be done, and the geoengineering, and the electric cars, and adaptive change, and social justice. I was watching a video yesterday and almost made me puke. Right, all these things we have to do, and greening our economy, and all these things you think are going to work. All right. You think we've got a traditional tame problem. We don't. We just don't. And those guys back in 2023 were saying, oh, yeah, we're off the map. Oh, yeah. Oh, this is what's happening now? Oh, well, then, okay, we're screwed. We've got maybe 5 years. That's what they were saying. And I was kind of saying the same thing. I'm glad I'm not the only one thinking this. We've got until about 2028. Yeah, that's about maybe 2030. And then I'm here to tell you, man, people, I'm here to tell you, the wheels come off. I was using the analogy of the race car going down the track, and not one, but all four wheels come off. Yeah, that's us. All four wheels come off. The wheels are coming off, all right? And as with anything else, if one wheel falls off, maybe you can control this thing, get it off the track. When all four wheels come off, you're done, right? Now you're just a missile. Now you're just a projectile. You have no control surfaces. You have no wheels on the road. And so you're going to go into whatever wall or post or pylon or over whatever cliff, whatever's available, whatever's handy. Wherever you're headed, that's where you're going. You have no wheels. All four wheels came off because you really didn't understand the nature of the problem. You didn't understand wheels. And now all four wheels have fallen off. And that's it. So you're done. And if there's a cliff, you're going over it because you got no wheels. And probably, you could even say at that point, as you're turning the steering wheel, trying to say, this isn't going to do any good. I have no wheels on the ground. And you're fucking around with the steering wheel, and you're looking at the cliff, and you're about to go over the cliff in your race car with no wheels. You're thinking, I don't think we did this right. Why is it that I have no wheels at this point? Exactly when I'm going over a cliff. And why is there a cliff this close to a racetrack? And did you start to suddenly realize that you kind of didn't know what you were doing the entire time? You didn't know what you were doing at any time during this entire episode. You thought you understood wheels. You thought you understood steering. You thought you understood racetracks and making turns. And you never dreamed that cliff over there, just outside the racetrack, that was your destination. You never understood any of that until all four wheels fall off, and you're trying to use the steering wheel because that's what people taught you and trained you to do. You're doing the steering wheel like this, and you have no wheels on the ground, and there's a cliff, and you're skidding down the track, and you're going to go right through that guardrail, right through those hay bales, right over that cliff, and you're doing this with the steering wheel, and you're thinking, this is weird. How do we ever get to this point? And that's the point I'm at right now. I'm here to tell you people, you don't know what the fuck you're doing. You have no idea what you're up against. The setup here is absolutely insane. This is unhinged. And you're all thinking that you're going to steer yourself this way and that way. And that's, that's the thought you have when you think you're dealing with a tame problem and you're still on the map. This is a wicked problem, and you are off the map, and beyond here there be monsters, and all four wheels are going to fall off. And they knew that in 2023, and I knew that in 2023 when I saw what happened to the Earth system and that temperature jump, and it was like, oh no, no. I'm not ready for this. 2023, and I'm not ready for this. Can it wait? Can it happen in the year 2100 like they promised us? Or maybe the year 2050 or the year 2040? Why does it have to happen in 2023? I'm not ready for this. I'm not ready for this. Oh, God, I'm not ready for this. And we're going to have to take the hit. And I'm not ready for that either. What is the hit? This is a wicked problem. There is no solution. You could come up with a solution, but it would turn out to be just as bad as the original problem. So there is no solution. There is no stopping rule. There is no solution that will halt the problem and that will halt the progression of problems. To put it another way, there is no solution that will put us back on the map. We are off the map. When you're off the map, you don't have a map. You're off the map. You don't have a map. So you can't figure out how to get back on the part of the map where you were before, where the map worked. You're off the map. You don't know the direction to go to find the place that you were before. That's us. We've been burning fossil fuels for 300 years, and we've been going at it really hammer and tongs for the last 100 years, and we've been going at it like insane motherfuckers for the last 50 years. And so we're off the edge of the map. So that's it. That's it. But you're off the edge of the map now. In 2023, we had evidence, data, that we were off the edge of the map. And we are still off the edge of the map. We're not going back. There's no way to get back. How do you navigate when you don't have a map? Well, you do have a map. No, you're off the edge of the map. The map you used to have is no longer valid. You just toss that one out, or maybe save it in case you ever get back to that point in time. But for now, you're off the map. You have no map. That's what that means. And when you're in a wicked problem, which is where we are, you can't solve it. You cannot back out of it. There is no backing. There's no out. There is no out. It doesn't have borders. It doesn't have boundaries. It doesn't even have a proper definition. And every solution you come up with is as bad or worse than the original problem stated. And the out sign, the exit sign, to even get to the exit sign, you're going to have to be adaptive, creative, collaborative. Really? In the era of Vladimir Putin and Donald Trump And the rise of fascism in the democracies in Europe and trade wars, we're going to be collaborative? Really? No, you're not. Stupid motherfucker. No, you're not collaborating with anybody about anything. Least of all global heating. Least of all. Hell, Joe Biden was so afraid of interrupting the Russian oil supply that he wouldn't even allow Ukraine to strike the Russian oil infrastructure. And then Donald Trump came along and says, yeah, go pound sand, Ukraine. I happen to like Vladimir Putin. So Ukraine's like, oh, you mean I can go ahead and do whatever I want? Yeah, sure, fine, whatever. You can die, pound sand, I don't care. So they just start blowing up the infrastructure. Now we're facing oil shortages. Okay, well, an oil shortage and the inability to gain access to fossil fuels is actually one of the solutions to global heating. And if you asked me, hey, Cougar, could you come over with a solution to global heating? Oh, yeah, give me a hot minute. Actually, I don't even need that. I just need 10 seconds. Leave fossil fuels in the ground. How many words is that? Leave fossil fuels in the ground. There you go. And if we wanted to shorten it a bit, we could just go leave it in the ground. 5 words. That is your solution, by the way. Well, that can't be right. Oh, yeah. That is right. You have to leave fossil fuels in the ground. Well, then how will I get to work? Fuck if I know. Oh, you don't even care? Oh, I care. I just can't solve that problem. You see where we're going here? Well, then that can't be the solution. All right, pick another one. We must reduce carbon emissions. Oh, good. Fine. Fine, that's a statement of a solution. Must reduce carbon emissions. How are you going to do that? Well, I don't know. We'll just, you can stop burning fossil fuels because that's where the carbon emissions are coming from. Oh, well, back to talking about that? Well, yeah, because that's you're the one that stated we have to reduce carbon emissions, and I'm saying then stop burning fossil fuels. Do you have a better idea? Well, I don't know. Maybe we'll innovate. We'll do some we'll create. Okay, but what could you do right now? I mean, because now you're off the edge of the map. What you're trying to do is get back on the map. You're trying to get back to something familiar. So you're going to have to reduce carbon emissions, like immediately, like 0 is the actual number you're looking for here. No carbon emissions. And to do that, you must stop burning all fossil fuels. 0 burning of fossil fuels. 0 burning of fossil fuels gives you 0 carbon emissions. And that's your target, right? You're the one that mentioned it. We have to reduce carbon emissions to what now? 0. So let's do 0. So you have to stop burning fossil fuels. And you don't like that answer? Welcome to the land of wicked problems. Now, it's possible that because this is a wicked problem, and because no one likes another person's definition of the problem, and because no one likes another person's solution to the problem, and because all the solutions simply move the problem from one place to another, I can solve the problem by crashing the global economy, but then that means people are out of work and can't find food and water, and so they have to have fossil fuels to get to work. So that just pushes us back to the place where we are right now. And we could play ping pong with that if we want to. We can do that back and forth. We can do that back and forth. And that's the nature of a wicked problem. It just goes back and forth. You never really solve the problem because you kind of can't. It's right there in the definition of a wicked problem. It admits of no solution. And maybe you have a solution, maybe I have a solution, but all we're doing is just knocking the hot potato back and forth between us. Because my solution gives you a problem. And your solution to your problem gets me back where I was. But this problem was caused by us burning fossil fuels the way we did, for the reasons we did. We like the reasons. We like the results. That's fine. And because we like things the way they are, not everybody does, by the way. Even the like isn't universally agreed. The elites like better than probably 50% of the population of the world. the 1/10 of the population of the world that is the elites like this outcome better than the 50% of the world. But no matter. Those 50%, they have no power. So it doesn't really, what was his name? Nordhaus? I don't want to get this wrong, but I'm just going to say there was a guy who got a Nobel Prize in economics for pointing out what I just said. Why did he get the Nobel Prize? Because he gave everybody the excuse that you don't have to solve the problem for everybody. You just have to solve it for the people that matter. But that's not a solution. Now, when we were watching this video the other day, the guy was saying he's obviously a Marxist socialist. I don't hold that against him because, they mean it in the best possible way. But what he wanted in the perfect world in the future, and the name of his YouTube podcast is Our Changing Climate. So you kind of know what he's focusing on, right? I should be able to agree. And some of the times we do. And he was saying, well, we need a green economy, and we need equity, and we need to redistribute wealth, and we need to guarantee everyone a job at the same time that we guarantee everyone time to be at home with their children and their elders and to do their gardening. And we also need to guarantee them a job, and we need to guarantee them an income. So a universal basic income at the same time that we can't allow corporations to destroy the planet or, create carbon emissions. And at the same time, how are we going to do all this? Well, we're going to green our fossil fuels, and we're going to green our energy mix. And we're going to do all these things. It's like, I'm listening to this, like, this is completely unhinged. Half of these solutions are working against the other half. You can't get everybody a job that they want to do and take care of, all the trans surgeries and sexual reassignment surgeries and all that kind of stuff without fossil fuels. Duh. Because that's how we do it. That's how we do jobs and economic growth, and every child gets a pony. That's all done with fossil fuels. And so you can go watch his podcast if you want. You kind of come away with it like, well, that's a lot of good ideas. But if you're like me, you're like, dude, you're off the edge of the map. You don't even know the thing you just spent 20 minutes describing is actually the core of a wicked problem. You're just throwing out all these solutions. You're not even comparing and contrast them to see which ones are in conflict with each other. You're just going to spew this word salad, and then you're going to walk away patting yourself on the back like you just solved the problem of global climate change, global heating. You just solved the problem? No, you just spewed out a bunch of solutions that are all disconnected from each other, and half of them are in conflict with the other half. And some of the problems you're going to create are economic problems, and some of the problems you're going to create are political problems, and some of the problems you're going to create are actually problems with the Earth system. And then you just walk away? I just solved the wicked problem. Phew. Give me a Nobel Prize. No, you didn't solve anything. It sounds stupid, okay? You just threw out a bunch of solutions. You didn't even bother solving the problem that's a wicked problem. You didn't even define the problem or how these solutions get at the problem. You didn't even bother doing that because you knew it was going to be hard. And you didn't want to deal with the hard thing. And that's where we're at. We're at the hard thing now, people. We're at the hard thing. We're going to have to take the hit. We're going to have to take the hit. And I knew that in 2023. When I saw what was happening in the global Earth dynamic system and that we had gone off the edge of the map, it's like, okay. So now we're just going to have to take the hit. And what is the hit? Leave it in the ground. Leave fossil fuels in the ground. Do not burn fossil fuels ever for anything. That's your solution. I know. I understand that's a problem. That's a problem for individuals. That's a problem for the economy. That's a problem for politicians. That's a problem for economic growth. That's a problem for jobs. It's a problem for every child not getting a pony. I understand that leaving fossil fuels in the ground is a problem. But we are in a wicked problem. And all the solutions are going to be bad ones. But I'm just going to focus on the physics here, okay? Because that's what I do. I don't care about the economics. I mean, I do care. But I can't solve that problem. I'm just going to focus on physics. And what does physics dictate? Because physics dictates. If you jump out of an airplane without a parachute, you're going to die because of physics. Because you can't escape that. So let's just look at the physics. Global heating is caused by excess carbon emissions into the atmosphere, enhancing the greenhouse effect. And those excess carbon emissions are due to human activities that consume fossil fuels, or coal, oil, and natural gas. And it doesn't matter which of those three you're using, or even how you're using them. It doesn't even matter how you're using them. The end result is the same. You're burning fossil fuels that contain fossil carbon and double and triple carbon bonds, which is where the energy comes from. And so to get the energy out of the double and the triple carbon bonds, you have to burn the thing in the presence of oxygen, and that releases the energy, which we then use, yay us, and then we get the CO2 molecules that come off of that as a result. And it doesn't matter how you're getting out that energy. Any methodology you use to get at that energy is going to be combustion, and it's going to release carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. There you go. So you must stop doing that because of physics. Because the greenhouse effect is a real thing, and global heating is a real thing. It's real. It's physics. Jumping out of an airplane, you discover gravity. If you didn't understand gravity, well, now you do. You're plummeting to the earth. And whatever you thought about gravity, or there is no gravity, or gravity is a hoax, or gravity isn't real, or gravity is a social construct, it doesn't matter, because gravity is real. If you jump out of a plane without a parachute, you're going to die because of gravity. And this is the same thing. If you keep burning fossil fuels, then you're going to continue emitting CO2 into the atmosphere. You're going to continue to enhance the greenhouse effect. The earth will continue to warm, and then you die because of global heating. And these guys were saying in 2023, okay. And the reason why they said this in 2023 is because of what happened in 2023. These were the same people who, about the time of the Paris Climate Accords, 2015 or something, they were saying, oh, well, we've got another 40 years. We've got another 50 years. We can figure this out by then. We can innovate. We can invent new solutions. We can spend money. We can sign more treaties. And by the time 2050, 2100 rolls around, we'll have our solution to our problem. They weren't thinking it was a wicked problem. But in 2023, they realized, at the same time I did, looking at the same data, because this is science, not politics. This is science. And we got some data, and the data was bad. And the worst thing about the data is it proved to those of us who understand that we are off the edge of the map. And there you go. And once you're off the edge of the map, there is no map. And anybody like Johann Rockstrom who tells you there's 9 planetary boundaries, we must not cross the 9 planetary boundaries. We've already crossed 5 or 7 or 8 or whoever you're talking to. But we must not cross the 9th one, because the 9th one is the bad one. That's the one you don't want to cross. And well, just add more. Come on, Johann, make it 10 or 12 or 15 or 20 or something, okay? And of course, that's what happens. It's called moving the goalposts, right? So when you cross the 9, well, then he comes up with 4 or 5 more, right? Because that's how this shit works. Because he's not in the business. He's not in the business of helping us understand our problem. He's in the business of telling people that you've got more runway. There's 9 planetary boundaries. We haven't crossed enough of them yet. And it's like when a few years ago we crossed 1.5 degrees above pre-industrial baseline for like an entire year. That may have been 2023. We crossed 1.5 degrees, and that was the Paris Climate Accords goal, was not to cross 1.5 until we crossed 1.5, and we even were knocking on the door of 2, and I think we probably still are. And then now the estimate is we're going to cross 2.0 degrees above pre-industrial baseline in a few years. But the pundits at the time said, oh, well, actually, and we didn't mention this at the time, but it's not just enough to go past 1.5 degrees C for an entire year or even for 2 or 3 years. You have to go 1.5 degrees past 1.5 degrees C for 20 years. And then we have a problem. Oh, really? That's moving the goalposts. And then the other thing they do is they redefine what is pre-industrial. And at one time, pre-industrial was any period of time, any temperature that occurred, any global temperature that occurred before 1750. So whatever the global average, and they can use proxies to figure that out, like tree rings and ice cores and things like that. They know what the temperature of the Earth was back in 1750. So 1750 we're going to call pre-industrial. Seems fair. And so any increase above 1750 is going to be due to global heating. And that's us. That's our responsibility. Well, they didn't like that. That wasn't working out. So they changed it to 1850. 1850. Well, 1850, we were deep into it, right? But okay, that's fine. That's fine. 1850. And then they moved it again. Then it was like, what was it, like 1970 or something? Anything before 1970 is considered pre-industrial. And now you're like, what? Seriously? You know, Ford Motor Company didn't exist in 1970? Really? That's what you're telling me? 1970 is pre-industrial. And so any temperatures before 1970 are not due to consumption of fossil fuels. They're due to natural variation. And then they changed it to 1995. He's like, okay, I see what's going on here. And recently, I even saw someone drawing a graph and looking at the departure from a pre-industrial condition, and they were using the year 2005. We are obviously not very serious about this. And yet that's science. That's science trying to convince you that we're not off the edge of the map. Why do they do that? Because these are scientists who work for the government. These are scientists who work for corporations. These are scientists who work for media. These are scientists who work for grants, right? Which is like being a corporation. You're at a university, you're free to study whatever you want, but you need grant money. Where do you get the grant money? Let me see. Government, corporations, endowments, right? University donations, right? So you have to be careful what you talk about, what you're going to study, because you don't want to upset anybody or they'll pull your grants. So it's all business. Well, doing science on grants is business. That's why you really can't trust the science that doesn't come out of anybody who isn't retired and they have their own money or they get support from some other thing. And like James Hansen, now that he's retired, he's doing some really great climate work. And what James Hansen is coming up with as he does his work with his fellows, I don't know where he's getting his money. I don't really care. But, you know, he's banging on it. He's saying, we are screwed. You know, he saw what happened in 2023, just like these guys did. And, you know, he went out there and did some research. He did some looking at it. And he was like, you know, he did something that I didn't do. I didn't bother doing research. I simply recognized, oh, that just happened? Oh, then we're off the edge of the map. Well, he went out and did a bunch of research with colleagues, and they did a bunch of analysis, and they wrote a paper, and they came back with, oh, we're off the edge of the map. Okay, fine. I don't need all that. I can kind of read a map, and I can kind of read when we're off the edge of the map. So in 2023, we were off the edge of the map. That's it. We don't know what we're doing anymore. It's even debatable whether science even has a role in this anymore. We're now in engineering space. We have to stop running fossil fuels. Full stop. That's an engineering problem. That's not a science problem. That's an engineering problem. You must stop. Now, some people will restate the problem differently. They'll say, okay, let's not talk about fossil fuels. Maybe we'll get back to that later. Let's talk about this. We must reduce carbon emissions. Okay, that's also an engineering solution. Reducing carbon emissions. Well, okay, we'll do that. They've had like 20 years of trying to reduce carbon emissions because this has been a problem for a long time, okay? They've had 20 years to reduce carbon emissions as a project. They haven't done it. Carbon emissions are now up every year on year. Every year they go up, increase, and every year our consumption of fossil fuels goes up, increases every year. We increase fossil fuel consumption. With a few outliers like the COVID years and some others, maybe they're kind of a flat line. But as soon as that was over, we're right back to increasing. So this whole engineered approach, we're going to reduce carbon emissions because it's an engineering problem. It's not a wicked problem. It's just an engineering problem. We're going to apply our innovations and our adaptations. We're going to throw money at it. We're going to get grants. We're going to study this. We're going to do that and the other thing. And we'll solve the problem of an engineering problem. But it's not an engineering problem. Not like that. It's a wicked problem. Yeah, I keep saying that because it is. Do I have to go back here? Let me do this. Wicked problem. Okay. We are a wicked problem because we are. All right. So you're not going to have an engineered solution. You're not going to have an engineered solution. You're not. Because If there was an engineered solution that everyone could agree on and that actually worked, it wouldn't be a wicked problem. But it is a wicked problem. Because people who look at this problem, and have looked at it for decades or even generations, will tell you, oh, yeah, well, we don't have engineered solutions. We're not going to engineer our way out of this. Not really. We just have to stop burning fossil fuels. And of course, no one wants to talk about that. So as soon as you mention that, we have to stop burning fossil fuels, they say, well, that's going to hamper economic growth. That's going to implode the global economy. That's going to cost us jobs. And where's our food going to come from? And where's our water and our electricity going to come from? And how are we going to build homes? And how are we going to, import goods and grow the economy and give every child a pony without fossil fuels? It's like, yeah, true. Well, then we can't stop burning fossil fuels. Not true. You have to stop burning fossil fuels, and you have to take the hit. Oh, okay, I have to take the hit. What's the hit? Well, your economy is going to implode. No one's going to have a job. It's actually 5 things, and I don't say this often enough, and so I'm going to say them now. On the day when everyone stops burning fossil fuels, and it might even be a day, it may be just a few days. Read my book, okay? It may be a few days, maybe a couple of weeks where things happen in a certain order and they connect in a certain way, and all of a sudden, boom, there's no gasoline or diesel at the service stations, okay? That can't be true. That's impossible. That's bullshit. No, it isn't. And someday that may happen. On that faithful day, when that happens, what you will see in the world is the following: no driving, no flying, no movement of goods, no movement of money, and no jobs. Repeat. When there is no fuel at the service station, which probably means there's no fuel for trucks at truck stops, there's no jet fuel at the airport, and so on, okay? On that day, what you will notice, and it may even be a problem in your own personal life, what you will notice, or will happen to you, is there will be no driving, no flying, no movement of goods, shipping, cargo, all that, no movement of money, banking implosion, money has no value, and no jobs. Without fossil fuels, that's what you get. 5 things. Now, from those 5 things, you then get a cascade of other things, which then become real problems for real people, having real lives and not wanting to die. So if there's no movement of goods, then there's no food on the shelves at the supermarket. And also, water delivered to your home, to the tap, that's a delivery. That's a good. You don't think of it as something that's on the shelf, although you can notice you can buy water on the shelf too. So these are things that are delivered, and it can be delivered to your home. It can be put in a bottle and delivered to the shelf at the supermarket, but it's still a delivery. Okay? And if we're not moving goods, right? No driving, no flying, no movement of goods. If we're not moving goods, then you may not have tap water at your home. You may not have electricity at your home, unless you're generating your own electricity, in which case you probably do. But if you don't generate your own electricity, then you may not have electricity delivery to your home. You see what's happening here? So in the event where they stop burning fossil fuels, because that is a solution, and we take the hit, what is the hit? Let's talk about that. On that day, however that day comes, on that day, you will witness no driving, no flying, no movement of goods. I've just mentioned a bunch of them. No movement of money, banking crisis, and no jobs. That's the hit. And from that comes what? Starvation, medical emergencies, rioting, chaos, all those things. That's the hit. Yes, I understand. I know exactly what happens when we stop burning fossil fuels. I'm not a hippie smoking pot. I know exactly what happens. And initially, when we stop, there's no driving, there's no flying, there's no movement of goods, there's no movement of money, and there's no jobs. I understand that. Like day 1, that's day 1. And on about day 3, there's no food, there's no water, there's no electricity. On about days 7 or 8, right? Everything's on fire. People are killing each other. On about day 14 or 15, then you have zombie cannibals. read my book. Link in the description. This is why I wrote the book, okay? Because I know we're off the edge of the map. And we're going to have to take the hit. And it's going to get ugly. And there's not going to be any driving or flying or movement of goods. There's not going to be any movement of money or jobs. And everything you thought was sacred and eternal just blew itself to rat shit because it was always made up anyway. And it was all enabled by continuous consumption 100% of the time for 100% of everything. Fossil fuels. It was all a fever dream. And it destroyed the planet for human purposes. Something else they mentioned in this article from 2023, 6 billion of 8 billion people are probably going to have impacts when the wheels come off. When the wheels come off the race car and we go through the railing and they'll go through the hay bales and over the cliff, that race car with all the wheels that just fell off simultaneously because we don't know how to do wheels, then 6 out of 8 people will be suffering from global heating. Impacts. And what are they? What are they again? No driving, no flying, no movement of goods, no movement of money, and no jobs. 6 out of 8. 6 billion out of 8 billion. That's the same thing. I look at it differently. I don't think it's 6 out of 8. I think it's 999 out of 1,000. And they don't just suffer the impacts of the deprivation when the fossil fuels are shut off. On that day, we begin the process of unaliving 999 people out of 1,000. That's the hit. That's the hit we have to take. Well, Cougar, you can't just sit there and with that look on your face and say, that's our hit. Oh, yes, I can. Yes, I can. That's the hit. We are off the edge of the map, people. Do not pretend. Don't pretend in front of me. Don't ever come up to me and pretend that you understand where you are at, because you don't. We are off the edge of the map, and we are going to take a hit. We are going to take a hit. And I am increasingly convinced that the elites, the 1% of the 1%, right? The 8 million people who run this planet, 8 million people, that's a lot of people. But still, there's 8 million people that run this planet. 1% of 1%. 1 in 1,000 run this planet. And they don't care about the other 999. In the end, they care about one thing: surviving. Why do you think Elon Musk has got his undies in such a bunch to get to Mars? He wants to be on Mars. He wants to be on fucking Mars. That's his rapture. Elon Musk is a rapturist, okay? Elon Musk wants to rapture his wobbly ass to Mars, okay? Not to heaven, because he's smart enough not to believe in heaven. But he believes in Mars, and he's going to rapture his ass on his skyscraper tall rocket, okay? He's going to rapture his butt all the way to Mars so he can sit up there raptured on Mars with a great big fucking telescope that he's going to call, that he's going to make for himself, a name after himself. He's going to sit there on Mars. He's going to watch Earth while he's raptured to Mars, all of us turn to zombie cannibalism. That's why he's doing all that. That's why he's in such a big fucking hurry. That's why he's cutting all the corners. That's why he's spending all his personal money on this. He wants to be on Mars. He is building himself a rapture. Because he knows. They all know. I know this, and there's a lot of people in my position that know this. And, if you're willing to sell out, then you go to Elon Musk and say, sit down, Elon, let me tell you some shit. You need to get off this rock, Mr. Musk. You need to get off this rock. Pick another rock. Mars. It's a good start, right? Get yourself to Mars, or at least high Earth orbit, right? That's what Jeff Bezos is after. He's after a high Earth orbit. He doesn't want to be too far from Earth. But Elon Musk, I don't know why he made a decision. I wasn't there in the room when he made the decision. He wants to be on Mars. Okay, fine. They're both off Earth. I think the problem with being in high Earth orbit, out there a ways, is that you're still vulnerable to attack from Earth. Okay, so Jeff Bezos and all of his guys, they all think they're going to have their own private space station at high Earth orbit. What they don't understand is you're vulnerable to an EMP attack, to a nuclear attack, to even satellite hunter-killer satellites, right? So since you're vulnerable to attack, you can be held to ransom. So if there's any powers that take over on Earth in the event of no driving, no flying, no movement of goods, no movement of money, and no jobs, whoever takes over on Earth, if they have all the nuclear weapons and they have, ways to put them in space, they can hold you to ransom. And at the very least, they can tell you, you have to let me take over your space colony. It's mine now. It's mine, and thank you for building it, but it's mine now. And if you don't let me have it, I'm going to nuke it from Earth. So Elon Musk, being a little more ahead of things than that, he's thinking he wants to be on Mars. It's far enough away that, and it's easily defended, that you can see incoming missiles, right? And you can send your own missiles out to intercept them. And so, it's not as vulnerable. Why am I going on about this? Because these are all the solutions in the solution space of a wicked problem. That's the level we're at. And there's lots of people who know that. But they are all within the 8 million people who constitute the 1% of the 1%. The 1 in 999. Because the other 999 are going to be scrambling around trying to find food, clothing, and shelter, and largely failing to do so. Read my book, link in the description. This doesn't play out the way anybody thinks. There's not going to be any Marxist socialist solution to this. There's not going to be any technological solution. You think there is? There's not. We've run out of time, if nothing else. We have run out of time. In 2023, they were saying, 5 years. Okay, that's 2028. We're almost there. And I'm looking around here, I'm looking at the data, and just, sure. Yeah, I'm down with that. 2028, sure. Sounds about right. And that's about the time when all four wheels fall off of our race car and we go through the guardrail, through the hay bales, over the cliff that we didn't even know was there. And now that's the end. No driving, no flying, no movement of goods, no movement of money, and no jobs. And it could all happen within a few weeks or a month or two. We go from, wow, this is groovy, I love my life, to, oh my God, I'm now a cannibal zombie. That could be 2 months. Read the book. Link in the description. We are going to take the hit. There you go. We are off the edge of the map. I can tell you that. I can't really tell you how the hit is going to come. I can't really tell you if they're going to deliberately pull the plug. They might. Oh boy, they really could. That is an engineered solution to the problem. They could just pull the plug. And it is literally a plug for a lot of these problems. They could literally just turn it off. Coal mining, it's a heavy equipment, electricity, turn it off. Crude oil, pipelines, turn them off. The wellheads, the pump jacks, turn them off. The cargo ships that carry the crude oil, the oil carriers, park them in the port or sink them. Take them out to sea and sink them at sea. Turn it off. Natural gas, pipelines, right? Fracking, all of that, turn it off. A child of 8 could just walk around the world and just go to everything that's dealing with and just turn it off. Clunk. What's this button? It says off. Okay, I'll push that one. Off. Child of 8 could do that. No, we can't allow that. We can't allow people to just turn it off. But they could. And if the 1% of the 1%, the 1 in 1,000, are more concerned about their survivability than the rest of us, then they'll just turn it off. Because they can. Now, you could, other ways you could turn it off. War would do it. In the book, I imagine a scenario where Iran gets a nuclear weapon. Maybe they get it from Russia. Maybe they develop it themselves. And they're at war with Israel and Saudi Arabia, who are allies. And so Iran, to punish the West, they take their nuclear weapon and they blow up the Saudi oil terminal. And then someone, maybe the Israelis, maybe the Saudis, blow up the Iranian oil terminal. And Russia was already taken offline by the war in Ukraine. And so now we have three major producers, Russia, Iran, and Saudi Arabia, that are all offline. And the global economy stutters and totters and collapses. And everything goes offline. You're done. The global economy is the economy. There is no other economy. There is no U.S. economy. As Donald Trump is about to demonstrate with his trade war, there is no U.S. economy. The guy is such an idiot. He thinks there's a U.S. economy. Oh boy. And all those assholes that elected him, they all think there's a U.S. economy. Really? There hasn't been a U.S. economy for, I would say, at least 20 years, maybe even 40. Right? And so they think there's a U.S. economy, and all they're going to do is they're going to America first and bring them out of the global economy and let the global economy flop and die and fish out of water, and we're just going to be fine. And there is no U.S. economy. We don't manufacture anything. And all those people that voted for Donald Trump, they don't work in factories. They're on social welfare, or they're farmers, which is also mostly social welfare. Farm subsidies, that's the only reason those people have a job. They get, if their crops ever fail or ever go into a market that's not profitable for them, they get paid by the government. Socialism. And these are all social welfare queens, and they're all living on social welfare, a lot of which comes from two states, New York State and California. We pay everybody's bills. And so they think they're just going to detach America from the global economy. What a bunch of maroons. These people are morons. They don't know what the fuck they're talking about. They have no idea what they're dealing with. And so as soon as the global economy implodes, everybody implodes, including good old America. And, Donald Trump will have a golden toilet, but nobody else will. Most people won't have a toilet to piss in or a window to throw it out of. Are they ready for that? No. Do they think that's possible? No. Is that going to happen to them? Oh, yeah. Because we have to take the hit. We have to take the hit now. We have to turn off fossil fuels. Okay. That's going to leave a mark. Yes. Oh, yeah. And the mark that's going to leave is going to look like no driving, no flying, no movement of goods, no movement of money, and no jobs. Wow. Okay, that's going to hurt. That's just the beginning. And then there's no food in the shelves. There's no water on the shelves. There's no water deliveries. There's no electricity deliveries. There's no first responders. There's no infrastructure maintenance. Everything falls apart in sequence. And then you're scrambling around. You're in your car. You're on the freeway. You think you're going someplace. You run out of gas. Now you're on the freeway walking. It's hot. There's people out there. And pretty soon it's just zombie cannibals. Zombie cannibals. And they eat each other. Because. And is that a solution to global heating? Yes. Actually, it is. Cougar, you just got the wrong attitude. No, I don't. Zombie cannibalism is a solution to global heating. There you go. Because global heating was always a wicked problem. And all your solutions are wicked. And zombie cannibalism is right up there on the list of wicked solutions. As is the Third World War with nuclear weapons, as is famine, as global famine, as is global loss of global supply chains, okay? All these are wicked solutions to the wicked problem, but it does cause us to stop burning fossil fuels. Because it does. And the global heating abates. Of course, we don't get global cooling anytime ever, forever, but it doesn't matter. If you wanted to prevent global heating from increasing, you could just implode the global economy, which is everybody. Solution, bad solution, a wicked solution, but it is a solution. And we're going to have to take the hit, folks. We're going to have to take the hit. And the only way to survive that fateful day is to adopt village life. You're going to have to circle your wagons with your neighbors, and they're going to have to be your neighbors. Physicality is what we're after here. It's just you look left, you look right, and you're saying, well, it's just you and me. I don't even know your name. I know you're a neighbor. I've seen you in the neighborhood, and we're it. The three of us. Oh, and there's another one over there. Okay, hey, come over here. We're having a conversation. And then you're just going to have to figure it out. What resources do we have? Where are we going to start? And read my book. Link in the description. It's a manual. It's a user's manual for what happens when there's no driving, there's no flying, there's no movement of goods, there's no movement of money, and there's no jobs. It's the user's manual for what you have to do when we take the hit. When we take the hit. And we're going to take the hit. We're going to have to. There's no way around it. We either deliberately do this, or it is done to us. But it doesn't matter, because it's the same outcome. We take the hit. It's going to happen one way or the other. And Donald Trump, for all his nativism and his America first and all that, and everyone being desperate, and everyone praying for the rapture. I mean, people get it. Let's just understand what that was about. Let's just understand what Elon Musk is trying to do. Well, let's just sit back, and maybe people don't know why they know this, but they want to get off this rock. And they rescheduled the rapture for the 8th. What is today? Is it the 8th? Today's the 7th. They rescheduled the rapture for tomorrow. Wednesday. I guess it was like a week later. Yeah. They rescheduled it for the next Wednesday because it obviously didn't happen the last time they scheduled it. So it's going to be the next Wednesday. And it's not going to happen then either. But what's happening here? Yeah, these people are dumb. Okay, they're gullible, they're stupid, they're morons. But they're religious, and all those things go together. But let's just face it. They want off this rock. Right? And Elon Musk wants off this rock, and Jeff Bezos. And they want to get away, because everybody understands. It's done. We're done. We're cooked. We're finished. And they want off this rock, and they're not getting off this rock. That's not going to happen. And Mr. Musk has run out of time. He's not going to get to Mars. He'll be still trying to launch his rockets into space and having every other one of blow up. He'll be doing all that at about the time that the fossil fuels are rug pull, right? And then there's no driving, no flying, no movement of goods, no movement of money, and no jobs. And that's it. He can't even pay his employees. He has no money. There is no money. There's no money moving around. He's not selling products. He's not selling Teslas. His bank account just empties out because there's a massive bank implosion, and he can't draw on those funds anymore, and he can't sell stocks because there's no stock market. Everything is imploded, and so now the richest man in the world is no different than you or I, and he has no better chance of getting to Mars than you do. And he's just as likely to be in the same line trying to get a bowl of soup as everybody else. Maybe a little less likely, but let's face it. We're all here. We're all on the same planet. We're all facing the same set of problems. And on the day when the fossil fuels get pulled out from under us, the rug pull, well then there's no driving, no flying, no movement of goods, no movement of money, and no jobs. So deal with it. Cope. It's going to hurt. We have to take the hit. When will that happen? I don't know. You could argue that it's happened already, that maybe in the next few years, maybe the wheels really come off for real in a big way. The wheels come off in the next year or two. Yeah, I'm fairly confident. About the time that U.S. elections happen again, which is 2028, I think it'll be pretty obvious. It was already obvious. That's one of the reasons we got Donald Trump, okay, is that people were already thinking, oh man, oh man, oh man, oh man, oh man, this is bad. They didn't know why it was bad. They didn't know how bad it could get, but they knew it was bad, okay? And they were talking about the price of eggs and a bunch of other things, but really they're just thinking it's bad. It's really bad. Something. And now they're wanting the rapture, and it's going to be raptures every week. Every week they're going to be jonesing for the rapture. And then they're going to be out with guns trying to cause the rapture and bringing Jesus down from heaven, shooting their guns and killing people and causing riots and arson. And these will be Christians. These will be God-fearing Christians trying to get the rapture to happen, God damn it. Because it's not happening. And they went off this rock. That's where that's all headed. That's the only place all that goes. And how are these people not zombie cannibals at that point? They're zombies. They've lost their mind. But they're zombies with guns. Okay. All right. Fine. What are you going to do? That's the takeaway. That we are in a wicked problem. Look it up. There are no solutions. If you think there are, then prepare to be savagely disappointed. All the solutions that you could name are as bad or worse than the original problem. You may not see it that way, but that's how it is, because this is a wicked problem. And all the solutions eventually come down to leaving fossil fuels in the ground. And that is going to implode the global economy. The built human world. The built human world. Not the world. The built human world. I don't care about the gay whales. I don't care about the penguins. I don't care about the coral reefs. I'm talking about the human world. The built human world will evaporate. And it will do this almost instantly. And then, you're going to have to rediscover village life. What can I say? Read my book. Link in the description. Have I made my point? I think I've made my point. Get ready, people. Running out of time. Not much time left. A couple of years, maybe less. And then we'll see. My recommendation on that faithful day is don't die.